lunatic? Do we find out at long last, after all this time, that God is weak in math skills? Doesn't sound like divine planning to me. Sounds more like human planning. Sounds more like one group trying to control another group. In other words, business as usual in America. Now, if you think you do have rights, one last assignment for you. Next time you're at the computer, get on the internet, go to Wikipedia. When you get to Wikipedia, in the search field for Wikipedia, I want you to type in Japanese Americans 1942, and you'll find out all about your precious fucking rights, okay? All right. You know about it. You know about it. Yeah. In 1942, there were 110,000 Japanese American citizens and good standing, law-abiding people who were thrown into internment camps simply because their parents were born in the wrong country. That's all they did wrong. They had no right to a lawyer, no right to a fair trial, no right to a jury of their peers, no right to due process of any kind. The only right they had, right this way, into the internment camps. Just when these American citizens needed their rights the most, their government took them away. And rights aren't rights if someone can take them away. They're privileges. That's all we've ever had in this country is a bill of temporary privileges. And if you read the news even badly, you know that every year the list gets shorter and shorter and shorter. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Sooner or later, the people in this country are going to realize the government does not give a fuck about them. Government doesn't care about you or your children or your rights or your welfare or your safety. It simply doesn't give a fuck about you. It's interested in its own power. That's the only thing, keeping it and expanding it wherever possible. Personally, when it comes to rights, I think one of two things is true. I think either we have unlimited rights or we have no rights at all. Personally, I lean toward unlimited rights. I feel, for instance, I have the right to do anything I please. But if I do something you don't like, I think you have the right to kill me. So where are you going to find a fairer fucking deal than that? So the next time some asshole says to you, I have a right to my opinion, you say, oh yeah? Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion. Then shoot the fuck and walk away. Thank you.
All right, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? So, this is the beginning of this series I'm going to do. I don't even know if it's a series, but whatever. This is George Carlin, and he is, if anybody out here watching me, wherever you are, has watched Zeitgeist, the first one, then you would recognize his voice. He's the one that does the religion bit, and I'm going to probably play that shortly for you. Initially, I was going to start off with the one he does about viruses. Now, the one he does about viruses, I forget how long ago it was when he did this, and I'll clarify that in a bit, but it definitely wasn't any time recently. But the information he says in a stand-up act is more useful than fucking the media and all the... It's like the good doctors going on records, information. You know, it's really good, it's relevant information, even though he said it fucking, I don't know, probably at least 5 years ago, but maybe even more. But the reason I started with this one instead of that one, or the religious one, they're all going to tie into each other, but I'm pretty sure they're all part of the same stand-up too. But it's just because of what he says there about the Japanese, and them coming for you, and talking about rights, and how rights can actually technically lead to our detriment. And what I mean by that is, well, today in Quebec, province over, they sent kids back to school. And on the first day, I don't know, a couple cases of COVID in children were found at the school. Now, I don't know all the details. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if the kids were showing signs of flu and being sick, or if they tested them and saw positive, because both of those are very different and can change the outcomes. Meaning, if they took a test on a kid and the kid feels fine, yet they said he had COVID, sent them home, and they're going to use that and blow that up and use it as an excuse to come in your home and say, I have to test everybody with children. If the children have gone to school or left the house or left your property or whatever the case is, well, then that's different than if susceptible more to the coronavirus. Now, a while back, I played the audio on my podcast, and it's in my folder. It's under a must see or a you must watch. It's the 2012 Olympic Games, where they did a opening ceremony. Well, the opening ceremony was like 4 hours long, but one of the last pieces was this weird dancing song where all these nurses are with all these orphan children. They're dancing like crazy, and then when it's time for bedtime, nightmare story, all these evil demon thought form spirit guys are walking around, and there's a big thought form at the end like Voldemort there. The girl is frightened, being pulled up to Voldemort, and top it all off, they're actually showing the picture of coronavirus in the middle of the stage, this big holographic image above the stands from like this helicopter view. It's showing that this whole time, like flashing in. And it was funny because my wife said, well, she asked me what it was about. She's like, what does that have to do with the Olympic Games? I said this before. She thought I was trying to link two things together. I'm like, no, this was the ceremony at the Olympic Games. She said, wow, that's fucking weird. But then she said something else, like, well, they got it wrong because they're not going for the kids. The kids are at home, safe, whatever. And, that got me thinking. And with today's events in that and all these rumors about them trying to come in houses, and which I don't think is going to happen, by the way, but nothing surprises me. But this is a way to get your children to, or get them into the hospital with a bunch of nurses and doctors and all that, separated from their parents. Now, the two reasons I said that we're separate, meaning if the kid was fine and they give him a test and say he had coronavirus, versus him being weaker, the immune system being brought down and being weaker. Sorry, I lose my train of thought because I think someone's outside the door. And when someone's listening, it's harder for me to come up with my thoughts. But anyways, the reason I say that is because I think I touched on this maybe in my previous video, maybe not. But here in Canada and anywhere where it gets cold, we stay in most of the winters. We don't go outside in the cold weather, except for the odd time here and there. And what that does, and everybody says that you don't get sick from colds. You can't go outside without a jacket on, you're going to get sick. Well, that's not really how sickness works. Most people know that if they do a little bit of research. Well, then why is it that we get sick more often in the cold months, winter, fall, even spring, than we do in summer? Well, it's because in summertime we're outside a hell of a lot more. We're interacting with more people. We're going to different places. We're getting dirt under our nails. We're not washing our hands as much. When we're not worried and thinking that we're going to get sick, we haven't been programmed and had the experiences of every year getting sick in the wintertime and not getting sick in the summertime. These things are feedback loops, programming, repetitive situations that play out in our life and that'll keep playing out if you don't break the cycle. So that's why we get sick in the wintertime, because we stay indoors. Well, the children were the first people to get sent home from school. The children were the first people to have their March break extended. The children were the ones that were told they weren't allowed to go out in public and the stores and whatever. They had all the first restrictions. Yet the children were the ones that were barely any statistics of any children that had died, except for ones with weak immune systems and or diseases and or other things that were the real cause of the death, and the coronavirus obviously added to it. But yet they were treated, they were the first ones to be on lockdown. Well, why is that? Well, they know that kids are very much germ, virus, infection, little magnets. And this is on purpose. Children do this on purpose. It's built into them to build up the antibodies against these viruses to protect themselves. You need practice with viruses and germs and all this. You're going to hear him say this as well. This is one of the reasons I want to play it. So, and there's a lot of people saying this as well now, and that's why I'm also aiming at it, because it's one of the reasons why this quarantine sucks, and it's going to do more harm than good. And when you add the masks and all this shit, it's just crazy. But nonetheless, by staying in your home, being around the same people, the same germs all the time, that you've already built up antibodies against, well, as soon as you get shot back out in the world where all these viruses are that you haven't been in contact with and haven't been actively fighting against, maintaining your health, even though your white blood cells are fighting off these things within your body, whether you got a good immune system or bad immune system will depend if you're one of those people that get sick every year versus one of those people that might get sick for 12 hours or one day, and that's about it. The point I'm trying to get at is there's a certain amount of time where they had to keep people indoors, and now they're going to release people out. And when they release the people, this is speculation, but when they release the children back out like they did today, and all of a sudden they find a case, and if it happens to be that the child is now affected by the coronavirus where it wasn't before, then this is going to be the new spin. Coronavirus 2, this shit is even worse than it was before, okay? So prepare everybody, because this is even worse. It's backward of vengeance. When it's not the case, it's the same coronavirus. It was just the fact that the kids have been off since first week of fucking March almost. That was the last time they went to school. And it's now May, versus most people have only been on quarantine for a month and a half. They're more like 2 months and a half or something to that effect. So it's going to be hard because everybody's going to be jumping on board with this, but that's why I say it's very important, these details. If it's the fact that they took a test and the kids are still not affected by it, well then that's the best scenario. The bad scenario would be if the children are starting to become affected. So if you are a parent or you know parents, and those parents are not letting their kids even in their yard, you need to go and convince them to let their kids out. If you want to protect yourself against this, if you want to protect other people against this, and they are not magical, they are not looking at thought forms, they are not accept, reject, banish, denying the reality, they're not maintaining a either neutral or a positive emotional state most of the time, so they don't go into fight or flight and shut down their immune system. Okay, those people are going to need some guidance, and shoot magic information at them probably won't work. So shoot the germ information at them, especially if they live in a country or a place where it gets cold in the wintertime, and that's where people get sick. They need to know this, that's what's bringing down their immune system. Add the mask and all that shit on it. These doctors going on record are doing an amazing job, especially when they go into the mask, how it's restricting airflow. They're not getting the right amount of they're not getting the right amount of oxygen, and they're also breathing back in their own carbon dioxide. They're stressing their organs, putting them in even more fight or flight, plus the symbolism of the mask being that you're telling your body there's something to worry about. Now your organs are also being stressed as you're showing them. You're just adding layers and layers and affirming, doing these symbolic affirmations day in and day out over and over again. It's just terrible for you, and we need to stop that. But get outside, start eating dirt. But you know what I mean. Get dirty, go for walks, come in contact with people. Maybe allow somebody to have a half an hour play date or something like that effect. So this way they come in contact with one person, so they're in contact with a bunch of other people, and you're bringing that into your home. I know that sounds weird, but the reason I say it's good is because you can fight against it. And you can say, well, what if my kid has a weak immune system and it takes them out? Well, then that's going to happen regardless at any point, and you need to get that kid's immune system stronger off the hop. And as a parent, you should already know this shit. You shouldn't be fucking playing the guessing game like, I wonder if my kids are sick or not. I wonder if they come in contact with it, if they'd be able to fight it off. But that's my point. So that's not my point. But what I'm saying is, if these children that have went back to school and got sent back home are having severe symptoms, and their body's actually being broken down by the coronavirus now versus them barely having symptoms and not even getting sick and barely any deaths, well then that's something to worry about, and that's the guideline. This is the reason I've been going out every day. This is the reason I don't want to wear a mask. This is the reason that I barely even put sanitizer on except for places that I have to. I'm not going to fucking affirm this shit in my reality. Like I said, I don't think it's going to come down to these mandatory tests. I don't even think it's going to come down to a vaccine. But nonetheless, whenever everybody wanted to do the H1N1 vaccination in the States, and nurses, doctors, parents, children, everybody got on board and said, no, we're not doing it. It stopped. And maybe now they're testing the waters to see, have they really evolved, or is it easier to pull one over on them? Who knows? Let's not let them get the upper hand.